Good morning, good morning, good morning, Black.org family and friends. I'm Dr. Rhonda Mattox, a triple fellowship trained, board certified psychiatrist and president of the Arkansas Medical, Dental, and Pharmaceutical Association. But most importantly, today, I am host of I'm Not Crazy But. Welcome to this edition of I'm Not Crazy But. On I'm Not Crazy But, we are exploring all those issues behind the but. Those include topics around mental health, emotional wellness, and today, family, we are Black women talking Black love reimagined, the myth, the legend, the reality. Now, when I think of Black love, I think of Michelle and Barack Obama. I think of Heathcliff and Claire Huxtable. I think of family reunions, barbecues, sweet potato pie, lemonade, all of that under the shade of a tree while talking trash, playing spades, and acting however I want to act. And it's not an act, it's me just being me. I think of safe environments. I used to think when I was growing up of romantic love. But as I became a mom, I realized Black love was wiping snotty nose. As a daughter, I realized it was standing over my father holding his hand as he was transitioning. What does Black love mean to you? And what is Black love? Is Black necessary? Absolutely yes. As I introduce our guest today, please do what you always do in repping your city. Tell us where you're from. And also feel free to drop the questions that you would like for us to answer. I'm going to tell you, I have an amazing all-star cast of characters. And let me introduce our guests as you're dropping your names and where you're from in the chat. We have with us the Dr. Alexis Hendricks, who is dating while mothering after divorce or trying to figure it out anyway. She's a mother of three, a daughter, a sister, a friend, and she's a psychiatrist and an author. Her first published work, Mommy, What's Inside Your Tummy? And prayer, and her next work was Pure and Lovely, a collection of prayers and meditations for single mothers. It provides practical affirmations and prayers for women with young children. Next, we have the Dr. Chi, who has an MD, an MSPH, an MHS, and family. We've seen her before. She tells the world she's an award-winning poet, but I know her as pediatrician and friend. She's also the founder of The Joy Well. She earned a bachelor's from Stanford University, an MD from Duke University, master's in public health from UNC, and she probably sounds just a wee bit uptight. She's not. She's going to bring it today. Next, we have the Alexis Brown family. I don't know how I managed to get two Alexis's on the show, but I did. She is a full-time student at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences, pursuing her medical degree and ultimately a career in psychiatry. And of course, I've already introduced myself. So family, we are just going to jump in. Ladies, I've already told you what my definition of Black love is. As we were talking about Black love reimagined, the myth, the legend, and the reality. Let's first set the stage for what Black love is. So what is Black love to you? And is it such a thing? Is there such a thing?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mattox, for having me on your show today. I'm so glad to see you lovely ladies as well. Black love to me is within the context of our own culture. I feel like it is love, but it is received in the way that we understand it and we love to give it, whether it is with excuse me, our friendship relationships and kikiing with our friends and joking with our brother friends, our sister friends, and all of that, or if it's in love and how we enjoy each other's company and the jokes that we can tell and just that culture that we understand and we can build together, that mutual understanding of each other. That to me would be the Black part of Black love, and why Black love would be different than just love.
So I'm hearing you talk about really a safe place. That's what I heard as you talked all about that. I heard a safe place around safe people that you can just be yourself. Anyone else want to add anything?
Sure. I would offer that, in my opinion, some of what Alexis said really resonated with me, especially the point about understanding our differences, because the first words that came to my mind were being understood and service. Acts of service is one of my key love languages. And so I believe that whether the love comes from the context of culturally what is different, right? We may all look Black, but culturally we can be quite different. So, how is love expressed within, number one, your family of origin, number two, your region of origin, um, spirituality wise, how do you perceive it? What does it mean to you? Understanding what that means to the other person and being willing to serve them from that perspective, not necessarily what, mainstream media makes it look like, not what social media stars make it look like, but what it means between the two people that are engaged.
Yeah,
Ah,
I would 100% agree with that. I see Black love as something layered. So I'm a first generation Nigerian American, no hyphen, both. And the idea or the concept of Black love was something I learned from sort of American society, right? It's love, isn't it? Like, isn't that just what Black people do? Isn't that just what everybody does? Love. But the layering, the reason why I say layering is because it is what is happening in the family of origin. Like Dr. Jackson said, it is what is happening in your external circle, with your friends, with your extended family. All of that is what we're doing in spite of whatever oppressive sort of social constraints might be on us. That to me is the strength of Black love. It's in spite of all of these things, we are here, we are expressing and living unapologetically. Like, Black love is huge, but it's not a monolith.
Yes.
And one of the things, sometimes when you are telling your story, people will try to put these labels on you and say, oh, you grew up in poverty. And what I think about is, while we may not have had a lot of money, now that I work in juvenile justice and I see how many people don't have families who love them and who respect them, I grew up with a unique situation. I lived beside my grandmother and grandfather. My great grandparents lived down the street. I had 3 uncles and aunts behind me. I was surrounded in a cocoon of love, and I didn't realize it was just something I took for granted. And then when I went away to school and I saw how people didn't respond to me similarly, I realized the difference. But I had actually grown up in just in a cocoon of love. Now, it may have been a little toxic at times, but I was surrounded by love. And so for me, my first salvation, my first redemption was family, aunts, uncles. I had 14 aunts and uncles, so I had lots of love. So while we may have think about it from a romantic love, and of course later we think about it from a spiritual love, that first love really comes, perhaps when you're in your mother's womb, or when you were with family. Let's talk about how that love looks and feels, and how it prepares us for the world or hinders us for the world.
Well, it's so interesting that you're talking about that mother love, like even in the womb. I was having this conversation yesterday about what it's like for the fetus inside the mother's womb to be experiencing living in this amniotic fluid sac, but then also getting in all of that sensory stuff from the outside, and how important it is that during pregnancy that mothers are in a relaxed state, because it really is a marathon, but that also that there is love and nurturing around not only the mom to be, the birthing person, but also the fetus that is inside that's going to come out into the world. That is the first space that us as beings get to receive and also begin to give, because it is a very symbiotic relationship, this child in the womb with the mom to be. There's something happening, there's an exchange, and that's the first lesson of love that we have.
And sometimes that experience is not one that is a safe place.
Right.
Sometimes a mother is under a lot of stress and going through a lot. And so your first experience may be a battlefield, right?
Right.
It may actually be truly a battlefield. And I say that from the experience of when my mother found out she was pregnant with me, she attempted suicide. So the fact that I'm here talking about that is important, because my first relationship truly was a battlefield, and so sometimes we don't have that mother-daughter relationship or that parent-child relationship that is modeled for us, so that we know how to navigate that realm. And we're just coming out the box right now. So, what say you?
I agree. I feel like there are times, especially a little background for the world that is watching. I like sped into this podcast from literally working and having a 8-year-old hurling literally all morning since 6 o'clock in the morning, right? And so I feel like from the outside looking in, right, if we're talking about family of origin and expressions of love, there might be different people that would look at something like that and say, well, if this person has a sick kid, how important is this podcast? Or if this person is preoccupied, why would they even still do this with a sick child? For me, my childhood construct with my parents was that my parents always showed up for two things. They always showed up for work. They always showed up for us. So no matter what, I kind of grew up in an environment where people kept their word, where people did what they said they were going to do. And likewise, I never wondered where they were. I never wondered if we were going to have food. I never wondered if they were coming home at night. Consistency and hard work, not the toxic kind, but just consistency and diligence was the order of the day. And so I've realized that as an adult, that is part of how I show up. Would I be doing this from the ER? No. But the construct that my children have is that one of the ways that their mom expresses love, not just for intimate partners and relationships, but just for our people, for people that matter to us, is that we keep our word and we try to solve problems. We think quickly on our feet and we take the other person in mind. We don't do it to our own detriment. And we don't do it when it's dangerous, but we do it to the extent that we can because it has value or because the person has value or meaning. But again, I fully understand that there might be other people from other backgrounds that might look and say, well, why would you even bother? Why wouldn't you this? And why aren't you just sitting next to him on the bed holding a barf bag or a trash can? That's not the kind of Black love I grew up with.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. And before I respond to that, let me just say, welcome to the different ones who are showing up. Manva and Erica and Roz and all of you who are showing up. Please share. We are having a very important conversation. Dr. Jackson, I love what you said, because we are mothering, we are parenting, we are schooling, we are living life, and we are doing that not in a perfect context. And I think the only time that my mother called in to work was if she was going to a funeral. And I can remember distinctly getting in trouble for peeing on myself in the 2nd grade because she had to take off from work and come bring me some new clothes. Okay. And the lesson was, what did this cost? And I didn't think it cost anything. And she wanted her money back from me in the 2nd grade because it did cost her something that she could not get back. But as to Dr. Jackson's point, that's what mothers do. They give, they give. And I didn't realize, and I have so much more respect for my mother now as a mother with a husband, botching it frequently. And let me be crystal clear. I share a lot of my lowlights because I don't want anyone to think this psychiatrist, this associate pastor's wife, this whatever it label you attach to me, that I have it all together. There is no one perfect but Jesus, and I'm not him. Okay. So I anything you see me doing, absolutely amazing. Contributed to the Lord. If you see me screwing it up, that's all me. I got that part right there. So, so as you talk, that really touched my heart because, of course we are doing life like this, but showing up. And here's the thing though, when is showing up for everything love, and when is it unhealthy? You, you get what I'm saying? Because I say that because for me, I remember going to work one day with laryngitis. Did I mention I'm a psychiatrist? And I was writing my questions down because I needed someone to give me permission. I needed them to see I was sick, give me permission to go home. And so I was not taking care of me. And so when is our Black love healthy? And when isn't it? And how do we sometimes get, because sometimes you can't see it and you don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's interesting how you all are talking about experiencing Black love as your mother going to work and saying that, oh, this is kind of the sacrifice, going to work and making sure that you're taken care of and all of that. On my mom, she was a stay-at-home mother. So she viewed her sacrifice as being, I didn't go to work, I didn't finish college, I didn't pursue the dream that I wanted because I wanted to be home with you guys. This is my sacrifice. This is what I did. So, a lot of times growing up, as I grew up, she would always push me and my sisters, I have two sisters, to pursue a degree, finish the degree, and to, go to higher heights. My older sister is a lawyer. My middle sister is a nurse. I'm in medical school. And she always pushed us to achieve, because she said she realized in hindsight that she wishes that she would have at least pushed herself a little bit further. Not that she felt like being at home was a bad thing. She really was happy to be able to be at home and to be able to watch us. And we never had to go to daycare. We never had to do any of those things because my mom was always there. She was always there for everything. But at the same time, now that we're all grown, gone, sister's married, I'm single, but all of that, it's her and my dad. But she now is kind of toying with, okay, I didn't finish college, so I'm really not gonna go back to school now. She doesn't have really a desire to go back to school in her 60s and all of that. So she kind of feels like, man, should I maybe I should have put a little bit into me as well. So sometimes that sacrifice, that Black love that I experienced from her, that sacrifice of not going to work, not, stopping everything for us. And in the end, she realizes, okay, well, maybe I should have done a little bit for me too.
I love those points. And what I will say is, it seems to me as a person who frequently hears mothers' hearts or parents' hearts about the decision that they've made, that everyone thinks the grass is greener on the other side and is wondering, am I modeling the right thing by staying home? Am I modeling the right thing by going to work? I wish I could be home more, or I wish I could go to work more. And we always second guess ourselves. And what I would say to that is, whatever choice you make sure that you surround yourself with a tribe of people who will affirm the decision that you've made and not feed your fear. Because there's some people. There's a lady that goes to church, and I love. She was a stay-at-home mom of about 5 kids, and when I tell you, she was absolutely an amazing mother, and her kids are doing amazing things and are so impressive. And those sacrifices that she made, now they are reaping the benefit of it. And likewise, and the sacrifices that working mothers make, you will hear sometimes the kids echoing and saying different things. And my daughter was talking about how she was showing her teacher her mom's picture. And so, I interpreted that as, okay, she's proud of me. You know what I'm saying? And so it's, you want, at least for me, I want my mom, my parents to be proud of me, and I want my children, and I say children, I only have one child, but I have Oliver Twist, my dog. I want them to. He's my son. Don't get it twisted.
Please come get your friend.
Right. Right. Like,
okay. Thank you, Miss Lee, for understanding what I just said. Because in my mind, she's affirming Oliver Twist. She may have been talking about
no.
Thank you, Miss Lee, for affirming Oliver Twist as my son. Now, I know that when we put out here Black Love, that you all thought we were going to talk about the intimate, the romance side. I assure you we're going to come that route. But I think before we get into the romance side and how we show up, we have to deal with this because, I remember, and then I'm going to kneel over to you, Dr. Chi. I mean, I remember getting hit by this little boy at school, and then, my folks telling me those are love taps. And I was like, excuse me, grammarians, but darling, that don't feel like love, And I remember seeing someone get come, and they were like bloodied up. And the first thing they said was, "What did you do?" And he loves you so. And so some of my early childhood experiences were watching some of the women that I love dearly be in these very abusive relationships. And when I learned their backstories, they'd also witnessed their parents be in these abusive relationships. So that looked and felt normal, like love to them. And I was only 5, and I knew that didn't look like that kind of love to me. And I've just said that. And Dr. Chi, you say whatever you've been wanting to say. If you've been playing double dutch, you haven't been able to jump in because I've been talking too much. I'm gonna dial this tab.
No, you're good. But that brings up such an important point about language. Like a second ago, we were literally talking about sacrifice.
Yeah.
And like you said in the beginning, I'm a poet. I think about words and think of the connotation, the meaning, how you feel when you say the word sacrifice, right? Like many people probably know of sacrifice in the context of the Bible. They might think of Abraham having to sacrifice his son and then God interrupting that, right? They're thinking of the women in the word that are having to sacrifice their livelihood or whatnot so that they can be in service to some other person. I want us to, or maybe I'm pushing back a little bit on this idea of equating sacrifice with love, right? Because there needs to be a choice. Like I feel like love is an action, right? And love is a choice that if we look at it as a sacrifice, if we look at it as something that is heavy to carry, a burden that we need to deal with, then there's no freedom in that, right? There's no freedom in that. And then even with the story that you were saying about being a 5-year-old and somebody's not love tapping you, they're abusing you, they're training you, even though they're a kid, right? That is when you're beginning to make connections with words and action and meaning and feeling in the body. All of a sudden, a love tap feels like something that's going to give you a bruise, right? Love is a sacrifice that you have to carry and make choices that are not your own. So that's the first thing. The second is Black love being self-love. Like you have to know yourself. And look, it's a journey, right? Like we're not going to know ourselves completely. We're always learning something new about our own selves. But when we center ourselves and say, I matter, when we center ourselves and speak language to our bodies that hear, or even ourselves hear what we say to ourselves, then we're more resourced and in a space where we can then give love because we have given ourselves love. You understand what I'm saying? Like the language has to be there because the body hears. The body knows.
And I mean, there were so many good nuggets and so many things that we've said in terms of that I like about that whole sacrifice. And when you put it like that's love reimagined right there. Yes. Because and here's the thing though, from our religious traditions of honor your parents, first, and what does that mean? Does that mean that you just do whatever they say without thinking about it? From our religious traditions of submit, and does that mean submit and don't think, submit and don't question, submit and don't have a relationship? Like sometimes our language around putting other people, and it may not be that that's the intention of it, but what I will say is so many people's interpretation of it is anything your parents want, do it. Anything your husband or your husband wants, do it. And these colloquialisms that we hear, to whom much is given, much is required.
Right.
Those things. And so, and then you throw on top of that, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And we interpret no is not nice, so I'm not going to say it. And so many of us are burdened down, and we have ulcers, we have tumors, we have migraine headaches, all because we won't use our voice, because we learned that telling the truth, if somebody asks you as a 5-year-old what you thought, you told them. And then what did someone else say? That's not nice. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And so then we don't use our voice anymore.
Yeah.
We're trained that we're bad girls. We're nasty girls if we use our voice. And so then we may be loving you, but it's at the expense of honoring.
Yes.
And loving ourselves.
Yes.
So let's bring in some self-love here. When do you get to love yourself without, minus mom, minus dad, minus boyfriend, minus girlfriend, minus kids? What does that look like?
Intentionality for me, like the undercurrent of what I said before. And let me say this too, first things first, Dr. Mattox is not crazy. My writing name is Alexis Hendricks. So I know y'all heard her introduce me as that. So I want to get that out of the way too before I forget. But
some people would beg to differ, but carry on.
Full disclosure though, like the name I was born under was Christy Alexis Hendricks. Jackson is my ex-husband's name. Long story. Anywho, I would say that self-love looks like choosing yourself for what you need. Full disclosure, I didn't know who else was going to be on this pod, right? If Mattox had hit me before and said, yeah, my homegirl's going to be there, she's a pediatrician, guess who would have been on here talking about their kid in the background seat? Oh, sis, I'm so sorry. I'm on my way to and a man student that doesn't have kids yet, right? Like, no, like, this is what you're not really supposed to do as a working physician mom. But there was a part of me, real talk, that kind of felt like I got to do this. Not because I'm going to get anything from doing it or because Madison's going to bully me. No, I felt like for some reason I needed to be here. If I was just listening and not talking, right? Then I needed to be here. So in this moment, I checked on him. He not dead. He all right. But I was like, I got to fix this lamp and see can I log on here. So there has to be, the lamp broke literally while y'all were backstage. Right. This lamp lights me for work every single day. This one. Fell apart. So in my mind, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna get in this conversation.
Yes.
Because I know something is gonna be said by one of these people. Like I said, I didn't even know who it was going to be. There has to be something on the inside of the other participants that I need. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been such a hassle to get here. So this morning for me, self-love looks like we're gonna figure it out. It's some pings going off over there. My calendar says I'm at lunch right now from 12 to 1. That's Black love for me today.
Yes. I love it. Yes, Ellis, this is group therapy. I love what you said, because here's the thing. Every time somebody asks, I had scheduled 5 talks in 1 week about 5 different things. And I was talking, and that's like insane, right? Yeah. So I'm talking to a group of medical students, and they said, how do you balance it all? And I literally laughed in their face, because I am nothing if not completely imbalanced. I'm aligned with those things that matter to me. But balance is not something that you put next to my name, right? And so as you're talking, here's the thing. It looks like it looks like choosing the things that matter to you and being intentional about being able to be in those spaces. I noticed my husband, he takes a trip with his brothers every year. It matters not, except during the pandemic. It doesn't matter what's going on. And so you are modeling for us, Dr. Jackson, what being a Black woman looks like.
Mm-hmm.
On the day that my mother died, I had a conference the very next day that I was moderating. I didn't want them to tell anybody my mother was dead because I needed to get through that conference. Now, that does not sound like self-care, but I had worked so hard. I'd worked for 3 years to make that happen. And to me, that was self-love.
Mm-hmm.
There were too many kids depending on me. And so sometimes self-love looks like, yes, being a whatever you fill in the blank, and still doing stuff while you're dropping balls that are important, but there's something that's even more important. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
I think for me too, self-love has been learning how to open my mouth, because coming from the context of being a Southern girl, you light, as you said earlier, Dr. Mattox, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. The pleasantries, if anybody asks you, how are you? I'm doing fine. All of those things, not wanting to be a problem, or I don't want to cause any problems in your life. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about all of those things that I had been taught as pleasantries, or as something to do, kind of just, I don't know if it specifically is a Southern hospitality faux pas that we may have, and being just too deferent, having deference for the other person, rather going for ourselves. And so I had to learn. It took actually moving to up north a little bit and learning, like, okay, I can be me. I can say what I want to say, or say no, or tell them how I really feel about something. That was something that I had to learn, coming out of the context of where I was, how I was raised, the family that I was raised in, where we were Southern Christian, good, quiet, don't shake the boat type of people. And coming out of that was a lot of self-love for me, because I now can have released so much more stress, because I'm able to open my mouth and say, you know what? No, I can't do this, or no, I can't be here, or whatnot, or even just express my feelings and be able to share them with the people that I love. How do I really feel? When you say, how are you? Sometimes I can say, you know what, today is not a really good day. I'm really not feeling good. So that to me was how I learned to have self-love for myself.
I love it. I love it.
It's amazing.
And it's good to find it now.
Yeah.
Embrace that, right? Because when you're out there, I don't know if you decided what kind of medicine you're going to practice, but staying true to your voice, what that looks like and sounds like for you, is key. You never know. When I went to med school, I was supposed to be an OBGYN. That's why I went. And when I told some of my classmates, psychiatrists, a couple of them, that I went to an HBCU for medical school. Shout out to Morehouse School of Medicine, small class size, still got friends from med school to this day. But some of them were like, you doing what? After all this study, what? Like, some of them are still trying to understand because of my personality. Like, how I'm talking to y'all, how I talk to my patients.
Right.
So it looks like my personality was more suited to be snatching babies out and doing pap smears, rather than what people think about when they think about psychiatry, right? So the fact that you are holding on tight to your voice now, that's big. Because as you go through your rotations and you get out and it's your name with the MD on the back, you're comfortable with your voice. You're comfortable with your no. You're comfortable with your why. And that's good. That's amazing to figure that out now.
Okay, thank you. Yes. And also, I just adding to that, it's helped me to figure out how I feel about myself, or what I really think about things. Like, no, actually, let me talk this out and tell you, how do I really feel about this? What are my real emotions about what's going on about life? And so it really is a huge progress of self-love.
Yes. All right. Now I have to pivot because I had some med students give me about 14 questions they wanted to ask, and I haven't asked not one of them yet. So, so now I have to get into what people probably thought we were going to talk about when I said Black love, before they realized that reimagined really meant loving ourselves, standing up for ourselves, loving others. And yes, sometimes it is at the expense of ourselves, but then finding ourselves as well, finding our voice so that we can really prioritize our health while we're helping to support other people. Now, this question comes from someone, I won't give any details, but the question is, if you could give a man advice on how to approach, what would you tell him? Particularly as we're talking about women who value themselves. That can be
a man under 30, or because
right.
Listen, we talk about one of the young boys. You said like the med students. So
this is a man. Now family. Okay, so let me just say this. It's interesting because I have the women who gave me questions and the men, and the women. Before you answer, the women were just like, "Listen, I want you to ask. Do you feel like the dating pool shrinks the higher you go? Do you feel like you have to dumb down in order to?" Yeah, I mean, and so those were some of the questions that some of the women were asking. Where do you go to find a date? How do you date responsibly and healthy? And what I'm really trying to say is, how do you do that? And the guys were like, "Hey, would you date a shorter man? Would you date a man that how do you know if you're in love? What are some deal breakers when it comes to dating?" So there were very unique perspectives on what people were interested in. The Black men were just like, "How do we do it and not get shut down?" Okay. And the Black women were like, "Are we ever going to do it?"
What town is this?
Yeah.
I'm in Atlanta, and
they were students. These were student questions. But they were people who have graduated from college.
Yeah. I think, first of all, let me say this. Jokes aside, I think it's amazing that a young Black man who is going to be, I mean, when I was still in training, especially when we got to the clinical years, a few of my classmates got engaged in med school and got married, but we had almost about try to fight the nurses, right? Because, of the availability. Okay. So I think it's amazing that they're even asking, what is the best way to approach and not get shut down? Number one, be yourself, be honest, and show up as who you are. And if somebody is not receptive to that, that's not your person.
That's right.
Let them go ahead and waste somebody else's time.
Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is, at least when I was in med school, was the Black men had absolutely no trouble finding any woman, Black woman,
That's
Asian
right.
woman, anybody.
That's
had
right.
no trouble whatsoever. I mean, I remember some of the people who, were just regular kind of guys with supermodel looking women, and they had regular kind of guy personalities that, weren't particularly
like average Joe.
They average all around.
Meanwhile,
to average, basic. They were basic.
And meanwhile, the Black women, or women period, really were like, every time you opened your mouth and said you were in med school or whatever, it was like, okay. Well, I don't know. That was my experience. That may not have been your experience. Uh-huh. Uh-oh. I am apolitical.
You are a truth teller. How about that?
That's right, right, exactly.
I stand by my words. So yeah. How was it dating in how is it dating in med school? How was it dating in med school? I was struggling in med school, and so I didn't have time to date in med school. You know, it was afterwards.
This is I'm gonna tell on myself. There's a little bit of a cultural difference here, because and all my first gen immigrant folk will understand this. When your parents come to this country, you are not dating till you're married. So that idea that you're going to be in college and dating, med school, law school, whatever, and dating, like, who are you? After you've gotten all of your degrees, then you come home with the ring, and it's like, but I didn't know how to do this thing we call relating, right? So I'm thinking about all of those things in med school, at least for me, and I was in the South. I was at Duke, wonderful school. And many of the non-Black women were getting engaged and getting married. They always dating. And then us Black women were like, and there were plenty of us, some dating here and there, but for the most part, it was like, oh, you're too intimidating. And this is not like, sometimes you hear that stereotype, like, or that trope, like, oh, Black women are intimidating, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Literally in my class, that was what we were always getting. Intimidating. Like, what's intimidating about us? And so then you would see, not just in my class, but around us, like women who would dumb down. You would use the word dumb down, or let their guard down in such a way that they were no longer authentic, right? Or being themselves, because they had to catch this thing that society was telling them they needed in a way that validated their existence, right? And it's like, but we don't need that. So it kind of goes back to, are you aligned? Are you authentic? Are you honest? Like what Dr. Jackson was saying, when it comes to dating, when it comes to approaching, when it comes to just freaking knowing yourself, right? Like, get to know yourself first. Stop thinking about like, oh, I have to hit this milestone, and then I'll be okay. You are okay now. Love this now, and whatever room or space you show up in, that's what people are going to be attracted to. And that's how things start. That's how you start relating, you know? Anyway, let me get off myself.
I love it.
It was good. It was good to me. Thank you.
For those of you who are just tuning in, let me just rub your nose in. You missed it. Go ahead and share so that you can consume all this good finger looking good stuff that we've been talking about. Share with your friends who are mothering while dating. Share with your friends who are unmarried and trying to date. Share with your friends who want to figure out if they're doing this thing right. We don't know if you're doing it right, but we're just telling you our experiences and how to do it a little healthier. That drop your names in the chat and where you're from, so that I can engage you afterwards, and let's continue to dig in. Now, I told you, anybody else want to jump on that question that I asked so long ago that you may not remember what it was. If
Remind us one more time, what was it was about?
If you can give a man some advice on how to approach, what would you tell him? Anyone else want to weigh in on that? And my next question is, do you believe in soulmates, or that you should find someone like you and grow the love you both have for each other? So you can choose either one of those.
Well, but wait, wouldn't somebody that you find and choose to grow with be your soulmate then?
Yeah.
Right? No.
I'm with Dr. Chi. Right now, I'm going to tell you why. I'm glad you spoke up for me. You didn't know it, okay? Since we're talking about we being real on here.
Right.
Okay, in medical school, I had a classmate, small class, predominantly African-American students. However, I had a study buddy who, excellent physician, I believe she's an internist out in the Midwest, who was originally from India, let's say that, and was being matched. Okay. by her parents. Okay. And so at the time, I am dating somebody who I had known since I was literally a kid, grew up, we had the same circle of friends, and I'm dating and preparing to marry my best friend. And I am feeling sorry for my classmate because her father and mother are conducting interviews, right, to find her a life partner. Please note, I am good and divorced. Her and that physician husband of hers are still happily married. They look very much in love. They have amazing looking children. I think they might have couples matches how she ended up over there. He could be going upside her head every night. I don't know. I'm just saying, based off of the energy I get from her, how happy she looks. She looks like her children are thriving. And I have a good life as well. I'm not knocking it, but it really kind of caused me to say with my kids, like, I mean, would it be the worst thing in the world to assist them with choosing a life partner? Because some of y'all don't know how to pick, and your mama didn't necessarily know how to pick. So I don't know if the bad pick and choose. So I'm glad you said that, Dr. Chi, because I'm just kind of like, I really believe that your soulmate is who you can build a life with. It doesn't necessarily mean there's one person on the planet that God made just for you. Based off of the numbers, that don't work.
It doesn't.
There's
now that you told me what your idea of soulmate is, I can feel you. But at first, I'm gonna tell you, we do each other a disservice because we grow up singing these songs. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes sweetie pie with the baby carriage. And so we set up these expectations, and then life happens. And it doesn't look like that. Somebody gets pregnant first. Somebody is perhaps traumatized, trying not to trigger you, but and life happens. And so their space looks different. They don't, if you grew up in religious tradition, it might be to marry as a virgin, and they don't have the opportunity to choose whether they were a virgin or not, or, those kinds of things. And so then we have we grow up and we're playing Chapel and Ken and Barbie, and the guys are growing up playing
monster trucks,
Transformers. We're communicating, and they're not. And this isn't all the cases, but I'm just saying you get kind of where I'm coming from, at least a couple of generations ago. So we have these expectations that it's going to always be like honeymoon. And then it's not, then comes people getting sick. Miss Lee, people picker, is definitely broken. You're here. Roz, Warren, appreciate the comments that you're putting in there. Thank you all so much for sharing. Joy Renetta made the same mistake as Christy all the way. I'm going to tell you, I know all these women personally, as good as we may look on here, all made some mistakes. And I will say, I always had people who wanted to introduce me to folks, and I was like, I find my own mistakes. And I had this.
I'm gonna find my own mistakes.
And so I had this idea of what my perfect guy was like, and he was tall, dark, well-read, well-traveled, whatever, all of that, right? But my type was not working for me. Okay. It was not working for my type, because everybody liked my type. My type was popular and in demand. Everybody liked that type.
That type was in high demand.
And so I had to say, and I won't say that I was settling, but I said, I'm a person of faith. I said, you know what, God, my type is clearly not working for me. My type is getting women pregnant and whatever, it's clearly, my type isn't monogamous. It's not working for me.
It's not working out.
It's not working out.
It's not for everybody.
I like my type's mother. I liked his father, but I couldn't get with him, right? I was like, I am not doing well in this department, because I used to say, Lord, I got this. You can handle my finances, my education, whatever, but I got this love thing. I really don't need you. I got this. So finally I was like, you know what? you know, I'm going to be open to what you. And so I didn't even put anything about what the person looked like. I was just like, I talked about wanting to get along with their family, wanting them to be able to engage with people from the outhouse to the White House, have integrity, have a strong credit rating. I didn't even say anything about money. I was like, I need to have a strong credit score. Okay. You know, I mean, and so I had all these things or whatever. And listen, got everything on that list. Everything. And so when I complained, the Lord's like, you know, you said, that's it. Okay. Now let me just say this. Now, having got everything that I said I wanted from my list, when I tell you that marriage is hard, when I tell you that there have been times when I said I didn't sign up for this, there have been times when I said, Lord, you gave me what I asked for, but you know, this man is crazy, or I'm crazy, or we both crazy, something is wrong. you know, and so we go out and because he's in ministry and I'm a psychiatrist and we look cute, you know, people think, no, we still disagree about the fact that he can't do a shot into the clothes hamper. Those socks don't make it and have knockout, drag out fights about the clothes hamper. Listen, don't think I got anything together because my husband is handsome and cute and love me. Because he gets on my nerves too, and I get on his nerves. Let me be clear.
Yes, but y'all committed to keep doing it.
Everybody who knows him not to send this to him, okay?
But that's relating. That's what relating is.
Carry on. I don't mean to talk about us. I try to send a sweet message and get out of trouble.
There are so many things that you learn about yourself when you are relating to someone else in an intimate way. And if you are open to what you are going to learn, it'll be a lot easier for you. Because I'm that kind of person like, no, this is not what I asked for. What is this? Burping? Why are people burping? You yourself burp. Like nobody else is allowed to do that.
You only like babies burping?
Right. Yes. This is why I'm in pediatrics. Thanks. Like their spit up is okay. But adult lover over here throwing up and sick. Like, nah, I didn't sign up for that. But that is life. And then you start to see yourself more. And maybe if you're open, you can relate to individuals better. Like,
yes.
I'm saying.
I agree. For me, it was, I think I always had this kind of idealistic, you know, view, this fantasy kind of like, oh, he's going to be like this and he's going to have that and he's this and that. And then the older I got, and also as those unrealistic time marks pass by.
Talk about it.
You know, like by this age, I'm going to be looking like this with this and this, all of that little check mark. And the guy I'm with, he's going to have that, you know, all that. And you realize how unrealistic that is. And then all of a sudden that list starts to be more reality. And it starts to be like, okay, let me look at his character. Okay. Have the same, you know, are we going in the same place? Are we thinking about things, you know, similarly? Is it going to be a journey where we're walking together or are we fighting each other? You know, and so that slowly became the way that I started looking at people who potentially I could date or people who I was dating. Like, okay, if we're not on the same level, it doesn't matter even if you've had some of those superficial things that I had on that list beforehand. Yeah. It's like if you don't have that character thing, or if we're not going on the same, you know, wavelength or path or whatever you want to call it, that journey, then it doesn't matter. Then that tall, dark, and handsome isn't as relevant as the okay, is he good with, is he responsible? Is he good with his finances, whatever his finances may look like, you know, right. Is he, you know, somebody who I can depend on? Is all those things that are like, what's gonna matter in a marriage? And I think one thing that helped me out a lot is the fact that my mom and my dad, they're still married. My older sister and her husband have been married for 10 years. My middle sister and her husband have been married for 16 years. So I've been watching them. You know, my parents have been married for 40 years. So I've been watching them, you know, and taking notes. And they've been telling me little things like, Alexis, this matters, that matters. That doesn't matter, because let me tell you, when you have kids, you're not going to care about this. You're not, all that stuff. So that has really kind of been my progression. And I'm glad that I see them and they get to mess up and tell me, look,
Yes.
this is reality. This is what you really need to be looking for. This is what you really need to do.
Absolutely. One of our commenters in the chat said, life is not a fairy, or marriage is not a fairy tale. And that is absolutely 100% true. The mundane and the ordinary are what it's all about. And I'm going to tell you, it is really easy to do life to date and be with people when life is good. But
that's right.
I remember there was a time when someone very important to me died, and the person I was dating didn't send flowers and didn't acknowledge. And the lesson that I learned in that particular time was, listen, I want somebody that I can do death with. I want someone that I can do cancer with if needed. I want someone like that. Now, family, I'm going to tell you what, this has been ridiculous. And we have nearly made it to the end of our show. I know our listeners are thinking, wait a minute. These folks on here is nothing but women. We don't have any male representation, and that's not fair. I knew you were going to say that. So I want you to go ahead and set your alarms for next week, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Next week, we're going to have some fellas on here. Okay? All fellas, nothing but. And some of the fellas are people who actually ask these questions. And I have a comedian that's coming on who's talking about. I have some medical students that are coming on, and I have room for one other person that I'm interviewing. Now, if you all send me treats and goodie bags, you may get selected. Okay, this is
ask for what you want.
The fourth person is about who sends me treats, good t-shirts, candy, that kind of stuff. We'll decide. But as we are wrapping up, and one of our people has to be off firmly, I want you to, there's so many questions I sent you that you didn't get to. So I want you to think about the one thing you wanted to say that you haven't said. And I'm gonna start with Dr. Jackson because I know she has to hop off pretty quickly. So what do you want to talk about as it relates, just in a minute or so, or seconds or so, to leave our audience with? And family, let me just say, share this because everybody you know probably needs to hear some portion of this. On you, Dr. Jackson.
Got it. I would say the importance of just remembering to love yourself, knowing what that looks like. I know that self-love and self-care are big catchphrases, but people don't really define what that is. One of the things that a friend of mine who's a therapist told me right when I got divorced, she asked me, what does Christy really like? Like, what do you like? And it took me days to give her an answer. I'm a whole psychiatrist treating people, putting their life back together, and I couldn't articulate for someone what mattered most to me if nobody else's opinion mattered but mine. But I believe that what she was preparing me for was life as a single person. Once you get in your mind what matters to you most, whether you have kids or not, your expression of love and how you receive love will flow from that. So definitely don't undermine what matters to you and what doesn't, because that's going to be the foundation that you build your love on. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. And you drop in the chat where people can find you at if they want to buy your book or one of your books or what have you as you hop off. Next, Dr. Whichever one of you want to jump in.
I'm still thinking, so.
It's fine. I'll leave with two things. One is a good piece of advice that I got from a mentor a long time ago. Be with somebody that you like and who likes you. Mm-hmm. Not even love, because we get caught up in love, but who you like and who likes you. So that when there's that mundanity and ordinariness in life, you still look at that person and you say, I like you. I like you. And I like hanging out with you. I like being by your side. I like being in the other room when you're in the other room. Like, I like being myself around you. You need to be able to say that or feel that. And the second thing is to feel more, less intellectualizing love and more what does it feel like in your body? How do you feel? How do you want to feel when you're in a relationship with somebody? I was watching the movie Something New, and this is the first time it came out. And that's when it clicked that all of the stuff on paper doesn't matter. For those of you who don't know, Something New is a movie that stars Sanaa Lathan. Simon Baker is a love interest, but also Blair Underwood. And they're sort of like playing on some tropes of black, white, like professional versus like hands-on, like blue collar kind of thing. But what really got me was the scene where she was sitting next to Blair Underwood's character and they were both on their computers being that high-powered black love couple, right? That trope that's so much around us. And where she wasn't finding her joy, she wasn't feeling it here. She was feeling it with somebody who completely didn't feel like or didn't look like the list that she had in her mind. So start feeling your way into yourself and what you like. Then you'll know that you've met somebody that feels good to you.
Yes, Dr. Chi. Yes, yes, yes. And Dr. And soon to be Dr. Alexis Brown.
Really, not yet, not yet.
Not you guys' responsibility yet. Grow up some more. But no, I totally agree. I think that for the last thing that I would say is Black love really is learning how to love yourself, learning what it is about yourself that you need, what can you give, how much capacity can you give without it being a detriment to yourself. All of that, it's something that I'm learning how to do, and I'm so fortunate to be able to see, as I said earlier, my family are modeling how the different mistakes that they've made. How do I correct that and give love, receive love, and let it be a lasting love? And that is one thing that I definitely would admonish everyone to kind of look within and see what is it that I need, what is it that I bring to the table, and am I being realistic, and can this be something that is lasting and that is going to go the test of time, I guess. So.
Yes, great, great. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I will say for me, the ultimate expression of Black love, Black self-love for myself was courageously investing in a psychiatrist to help me unlearn some of the survival skills that I needed in order to survive childhood, but that were no longer serving me. I had to unlearn that, not saying, if it's not nice, don't say it. I had to learn what using my voice and setting boundaries was okay, and it was not disrespectful. I had to learn that it was okay to have an opinion with my parents, with leadership, and I had to learn how to use my voice. That was one of the most important things that I learned in order to add value to my child, add value to my husband, add value to my community, add value to myself. So learning how to unlearn some of those messages is essential to you becoming the person that you want to be at the highest level of yourself. Family, I am Dr. Rhonda Mattox. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you so much for sharing your lunch with us. We had fun. My job is not to get you to think like me. My job is to get you to think. There's a pastor in Maryland who says that, and I want to credit him, but I can't remember his name. So you all drop his name if you know him. But in any event, I thank you for sharing your time. I thank you for sharing your sentiments and joy. And remember, I'm not crazy, but we meet every Thursday, 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. Central Standard Time for an hour of reflection, an hour of investment into ourselves. Next week, we're going to give the men an opportunity to have their say. And ladies, if you can, we may invite you. I don't want to take their time, but we may have to come back for a reunion of all of you, the men and the women. Okay. So we're going to do this next week. We're talking Black Love Reimagined. the myth, the legend, and the reality. And we're hearing from Black male perspective. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. I want to thank our producer, Ellis, for being so patient and graceful with us. And he was a person who put on that screen, you're being too political. And so somebody who's around him, pinch him real good, say, this is from Dr. Mattox. Family, thank you. I just want to encourage you to step outside of your comfort zone and make an impact. Bye-bye.